Hello, I'm Alan, and I'm so thankful that you're here. We've been sharing about a hopeful way to walk into holiness. In this series, I'm here to encourage you that you can walk into holiness. Now, for some people who've battled things for a long time, they maybe can feel they're not strong enough. But I'm going to show you today that you are strong enough by the help of God in you. Now, I want to make a distinction between natural willpower versus spiritual willpower. And it may seem small, but it's very important that we understand the difference. Someone who's naturally strong in their personality or strong in their willpower sometimes can bring that over into the gospel and say, well, I just stopped doing it, so you just stop doing it. And I heard that many times in my younger years of how to battle sin was, well, just stop doing it. And I wanted to stop, but yet I found myself weak in my emotions, weak in my decision making, constantly struggling over and over again. And that's when Pastor Dave rescued me by teaching that if I prayed in tongues a lot, that it could change who I was. And that helped me to find hope in my walk into holiness. It wasn't that I wasn't strong in the Spirit. I didn't know how to or was unwilling to walk it out. So we're going to learn today about the strength that you have as a believer, as a child of God, and the strength you can gain from the help of the Holy Spirit to overcome anything in your life, any struggle, any battle. And in this series, you've learned that there's a lot of mercy and grace from God in your walk into holiness. So we'll start over here in Ephesians chapter 4, and we're going to read starting in verse 20. But you've not so learned Christ. So we understand from this that Paul had taught them a way into God. They learned from Paul about how to walk into Christ. If indeed you've heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus, that you put off concerning your former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to deceitful lusts. So we can see that you and I are wearing an old man. This is the outward body, the outward mind and emotions, the outward soul of this old man, this old body that is left over from my first birth. I'm going to get rid of mine when the trumpet sounds, and you'll get a new body when the trumpet sounds. I'll get a new body when the trumpet sounds. It will not have any sinful desires in it. It'll fully be righteous, like my inner man is, like my new nature is right now. And then he says, and that you put on the new man, which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. Well, that's talking about your inner man, your inner body, that you have to put it on. You have to grow in the knowledge of God and then execute the desires and will of the inner man. You're wearing an inner man and an outward man. The outward man, the old man, desires, wills for sin, for self-preservation, for selfishness, for self-pleasure. Well, your inner man has desires as well that are opposite of the natural man. The inner man desires the things of God, holiness and righteousness, purity. It desires those things. So you have two desires speaking to you at the same time, the outward man and the inward man. You get to decide who you listen to. That's the willful decision that you make. There are many people who are not saved who have great strength and personality to tell their body what to do, and they're not even saved. So all of their strength, if you just look at people who are into extreme sports or athletics or into extreme discipline, and they're not saved, where does that will come from? Well, that is a natural willpower that they have decided to use in a certain way. And they're very disciplined and structured. And in my early years when I was young, people like that who had strong personalities would tell you, Well, just do what I did and quit sinning. Just stop it. Just stop sinning. Say no. And I thought, well, okay, I'll do that. And then I would crumble at after fighting for a while and fall to the sin or struggle emotion over and over again, realizing I wasn't strong in my decision making and I didn't have their natural strength. Well, the danger of walking in holy, only using your natural willpower, a willful decision, is that the roots of why you want to sin are still there, even though you are overpowering them by your decision making. And so if you only live in willful willpower, then you're going to fail one day, because all you need to do is have more attack, a more sophisticated attack from the enemy, or more weight put on you. An example would be if you go to the gym, a strong man could lift many pounds, hundreds and hundreds of pounds and kilos on his shoulders, and do a squat with hundreds of pounds. And let's say the world record maybe is 1,000 pounds and 500 or so kilos of weight he can lift on his shoulders, and that's close to the world record. That's a lot of weight, and that's very strong. You've exercised those physical muscles and you're very strong. But can you lift 10,000 pounds, or can you lift 2,000 kilos? Yeah, well, the answer is no. No man could lift that. It would crush a man to have 10,000 pounds, an elephant on his shoulders. It would squish him no matter how strong he is. Well, that's the danger of willpower, is you may think you're stronger than the roots of sin in your natural man. But all the enemy has to do at his convenience is add more weight until you go splat. And that's why you see many strong-willed believers, preachers, preach really strong against sin, but then one day splat. You wonder what happened. Well, they were strong in their own power and lived there as the answer. The answer to true holiness is not just willfully to say no to sin. You have to go beyond that. You have to go to a place of mortifying the root of the reason you want to sin. Now, you start with good willful decision making. I'm deciding not to sin. And you're going to learn today that you have the strength from God to not sin at all, ever, once you're born again. And so walking in that is the beginning, walking in the willful decision to not just say no to sin, but also to spend time doing the things that help you to mortify the root of why you're wanting to sin. It's easy to say no when there's nothing in you that wants it. I can say no to a lot of things because I'm not interested in them. But it's the areas of my life that are broken from my past, from my upbringing, in my natural man, that entice me to be angry or jealous. Or I don't want to lay out sin as any name of it, because we all struggle with different things. But if we only live in our own willful strength to say no, if that's all we stay in, then eventually the enemy will come with a greater attack, more sophisticated, designed exactly how to make you fall. He's been working on you for years to get you to the place that you let your guard down, and or add more weight to the point that you can't lift it with your own natural strength. So it'd be equivalent to someone who is 7 feet tall coming up to you and saying, "Hey, I'm a basketball star. If you just practice with, like I do, I practice 6 hours a day at basketball. If you just practice like me, you can be as successful at basketball as I am." And you look way up at him and go, "I don't know if that works," because you got an advantage that you're naturally gifted in your height. And so it's unfair for him to tell you that you can be as successful as he is because he's 7 foot tall and you're not. See, and that's when someone who has a natural strong personality. They're usually the bosses. They have no problem bossing other people around or telling them what they should do, trying to instruct you that, hey, just say no to sin like I did. The message of the gospel is as powerful for those who don't have the natural gift as it is for those who do have the natural gift, because our success comes from God and not from our own natural ability. So someone who can sing because they have a beautiful voice can't come up to me and say, well, I took singing lessons. Go take singing lessons and you'll be able to sing as well as I can. Well, I could take all the singing lessons in the world and still not be able to sing like they can because I don't have the natural gift. So we want to be careful on this path in the holiness to not get our lessons from people who are naturally gifted in their willpower, strong, forceful, commanding, since they've been kids. And then them trying to tell other people to do it the way they did it, because it's not fair. But there is a fair path that's equally available for each believer. So here he says, you have to put on the new man. The new man is the inner man growing up in love, in holiness, in joy, in peace, the fruit of the new nature. So you have an inner man. You're born again. You already have an inner man that was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. That's the inner you. And when you're first saved, it's immature. It's like a baby. It has to grow in the knowledge of God. That's why we have to put it on by developing it, by allowing it to grow, by spending time with God in worship and praying in tongues. So I bring that up because we're going to another verse over in Ephesians 6 in a moment. Then he says, therefore put away lying. Let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil. Let him who steals, steal no more. So here's some instructions towards holiness for the believer, saying, start walking into holiness. Start making choices against the desires of the outward man. And I bring that up because if we read over here in Ephesians 6, verse 10, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand. Stand, therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness. So the first part of the armor that he mentions is the belt of truth. Well, that tells you the way you put on the belt of truth is you remove the root of lying out of your life. For years when I was younger, I learned, get up every morning and confess that you have the whole armor of God on. I have the breastplate of righteousness. I have the helmet of salvation. I have the belt of truth. My feet are shod with peace. And we confess that over ourselves. But here Paul is saying the way you put on the belt of truth is by being truthful, becoming truthful, and put away lying. You get the root of lying out of you. So we want to walk in the armor of God because it tells us the enemy has very much plans to destroy you. And it's not just within yourself, it's also external attacks from principalities and powers, little demons and big demons coming to stop you from being all that God wants you to be. Well, the only way for us to withstand everything the enemy is going to bring against us is to remove the things in our life, the root of the things in us. So when the enemy comes and tries to tempt us, there's nothing of him in us. That's how we wear the armor of God. We become the believer he's called us to be. We grow in those things. Now, we don't have to wait until we have got the root of sin out of us to be holy. We can choose to be holy the moment we're saved. The moment you're saved, you're free from sin. You don't have to sin. You don't have to bow down to it. It can seem overwhelming if you're struggling, yes, but you're not at its mercy. You can say no, but if you want to learn to say no from a different place than just your own willpower, the danger for someone who is willfully strong in the natural is they can think they're overcoming, but really they're just putting off their failure till later, because the enemy will come with more weight than they can handle. The true way to walk into holiness and righteousness starts with a willful decision to say no to sin, but also a willful decision every day to spend time with God to grow and put on the new man. In verse 10, he says these words, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." Now, we're going to look at some of these words. I'm not a Greek scholar, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce them. So then you won't be able to replay it and embarrass me. But we're going to look here firstly, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. That word strong means a power infused inwardly, into your inner man. This is directly with you having the power to say no. See, there's a strength. This strength is from God, not from your own ability, not from how you were raised with an iron fist or however your upbringing was. It's with relying on a strength that comes from God. That means when you're at the moment of temptation, when you want to give into it, you can still say no. You can walk away and say no. Now, you may struggle with saying no, but it's not because you're too weak. It's because you haven't exercised that strength of saying no from his strength. That's what the word strong means. It's an internal strength that's given to you from God to choose the right choice every single time. That is in you from the moment you are born again. You don't have to sin. I don't have to sin. We choose to sin. We want to sin. Praying in tongues helps to deal with the part of your flesh that wants it. It helps you to rise above it and to mortify the root of why you want to sin. The same reason some people like chocolate ice cream and other people don't. Other people only like vanilla ice cream, or they don't like ice cream at all. They're not tempted by ice cream because they don't like it. I'm shocked if someone doesn't like ice cream, but some people don't like ice cream. There's nothing in them that wants it. It's no problem for them to say, no, I'm not interested in that. But if you make it a donut, they may eat a dozen donuts while you eat a gallon of ice cream. It's not in them to eat that flavor of struggle that you're in. But they have their own flavor of struggle. So this strength that he's talking about here, be strong in the Lord, this strength is not you saying, I am strong, and using your strength that you brought into Christianity before you were saved. This is talking about a strength that you've had to rely on from him directly to you. That's the strength. I am strong in Christ to say no to sin the moment I'm saved. To every sin, no matter how long I've struggled with it. I have strength from him, and I can choose to learn to rely on that, or I can choose to rely on my natural strength. And I want you to see the danger of only relying on your natural willpower. Now, I was blessed or cursed, however you want to say it, to be dysfunctional when I found Jesus. I didn't have a lot of natural willpower in my life to control my desires. But as a Christian, the moment I was saved, I now had the strength of an army in me from God. So I've had to build my willpower from him and not from my own natural ability. I hope you can see the difference. Finally, my brethren, be strong. Be strong on the inside to make good decisions by Him and not by your own power. That's the strength he's talking about here. And you have that the moment you were saved. Now, every time you choose, when you feel a desire to sin, a desire to give into any sin of pride, of insecurity, of jealousy, of envy, of anger, or smoking and drinking, and you say, no, I'm not going to do it, and you use His strength to say no, well, you're developing a reliance on that strength that will be there the rest of your life to be able to be strong over sin. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power. Now, this word power is another. He mentions 3 words here that are all like incredibly superhuman strength. The first word is strong. Be strong in the Lord and in the power. The power is the second word. That word power means to demonstrate outside of yourself where others can see it. That word power here is also mentioned in Ephesians 1. Let me read this for you. Ephesians 1. We'll start here in verse 15. Therefore I also, after I heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus and your love for the saints, do not cease to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers, that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give to you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of Him. So there we see the spiritual growth. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of His calling, what are the riches of the glory of His inheritance to the saints, and what is exceeding great, what is the exceeding greatness of His power towards us who believe, according to the working of His mighty power. Now that's the same word power that we read in Ephesians 6. It is a power with outward demonstration, which He worked in Christ when He raised Him from the dead and seated Him at the right hand in heavenly places. So this is talking to you and to me, that we have right now a power in us to push back the attack of the enemy, the temptation of the enemy. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is in you right now. That is how He raised you from the dead. That's your new nature. You have the power from God that can say to the outside forces that are tempting you, no, I don't submit to you. So this is the word power that you and I have right now as believers. Finally, my brethren, be strong on the inside from God, in the Lord and in the power to demonstrate outwardly the decision making, to resist temptation, to say no to the enemy, to destroy the enemy's works in your life, and of His might. Now, the word might is also another very powerful word. So here He's given us 3 different words of power, of super strong power that comes from God to you as a believer. It's not talking about you and your own strength. There's nothing that God's going to ask us to do that we can do in our own strength. The church world today is so much built on the strength of man, on the wisdom of man, that it will never see revival. It may see some good works, but it'll never see revival, because revival will only come from God's power in our personal life. Well, the word might is a word that really describes like a really, if you think of the biggest bodybuilder you can think of, it shows an inward strength of a strong man with many, many muscles. And it's inwardly. So this is the inward strength that is what is behind the outward power that we can walk in. So we don't just need an outward power. God, just zap me with your power and make all my troubles go away. This is when many believers, they say, I break the devil's attack on my life. Well, yet they're playing with sin because they're not inwardly relying on strength or growing that inner man strong. They want God's power to fix the problem. I told the devil to leave and he didn't leave. Well, that's because you need that inward man strength to resist the devil. So the picture here is a might that is God's strength in you the moment you're saved. This is the new nature. And it shows an outward demonstration of that power that you have to push back the enemy's attack on your life, to resist and say no to sin, to break the power of the enemy's control in your life. And also a might, a strong man, an inner man that is built up strong so that you have an inner strength that allows you to exhibit and display that outward power of God. This is the picture of holiness for us, for your future, for you today, that you can say no to sin. You have the power to say no to sin. And I know that if you're struggling, I don't want you discouraged and say, well, I'm such a failure. I have everything I need and I'm such a failure. Well, he works with us failures as well. And that's why you go to his mercy and ask for forgiveness and repent and do your best to walk away from sin, but also discipline yourself. Use that internal strength to go spend time in your prayer closet to grow, to go spend time in worship and in the Word, because that's growing up that might of the inner man to not just be holy in your own personal life, but God has things for you. Do you understand? He's got a call on your life. He has a wonderful future plan for you, and it's going to need you to grow up. It's going to need you to mature in the things of God inside of you, in your inner man. At the same time, we put off the old man. We begin to discard its reasoning. We discard its desires and say, no, you don't get to tell me who I am anymore. You don't get to direct my path or tell me what success is. I choose to grow in God, and in the moment I'm saved, I'm choosing to pursue holiness. Not by my strength, but His strength. Not by my might, but His might. Not by my power, but His power. And it all starts with a simple decision every day. Number one, to resist sin, to say no to sin, but also to spend time with God. To take the time to make your day allow you to spend time praying in tongues, in the prayer closet, to spend time in the Word of God, to spend time worshiping God. Those are things that help build up that inner man in great strength. Now, I'm going to go over to Romans, and we're going to look here just a little bit. And again, I'm trying to show you that when you're saved, God gives you strength to help you to make healthy, strong choices against the desires of the flesh, the desires of the outward man. Here in Romans chapter 1, we'll start here, verse 8 and verse 9. First, I thank my God, this is Paul again writing, first I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of His Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers. And this is a picture that we see from Paul throughout all of his writings, the inner man and the outward man. Paul is saying here, I serve God with my spirit, or my inner man. It's through my inner man that I walk with God. Now, Paul came from a very religious past. He was trained as a young man to be of the Pharisees. He called it the Pharisees of the Pharisees. By the age of 12, he had memorized the first 5 books of the Bible. And when he says that I count it all as dung or garbage, see, he's not saying I used to be a drinker and a smoker and a womanizer and I count all that as dung. His history was not of going to the bars or sliding into sin. It was, I had to throw away all the strength of my outward man because it was not good enough or strong enough to do what God wants me to do. Well, that's the picture here. He's saying when I serve God with my spirit, he's saying my Christianity is the new man that I was birthed as a believer, and diminishing the outward man as my strength and relying on the inward man as my strength to serve God. It's important we know that because there's a lot of preaching on holiness that, in my view, relies on the strength of the outward man. And we're not trying to be holy as in we're trying to just modify our behaviors. That's not holiness. That's an act towards holiness, that I'm modifying my behaviors. Because if you go down that path, there's some people who are trying to modify their behaviors to offer God holiness, and pretty soon you got to change the way you look. If you start removing things, I no longer use the computer, I no longer use the phone, I no longer use the internet. Pretty soon you're offering God all kinds of things. You'll be living on a farm somewhere with no electricity and trying to continue to offer God more and more of yourself. That's not the holiness he's after. He's after holiness of us being people of God, living like Christ in holiness and love and maturity. Put it on the new man while we put off the old man. Now in Romans chapter 2, he is trying to help us to see, or help the Christians in Rome to understand that the act of holiness comes from the new nature, not from outside laws, not from outside rules. And here he says in Romans 2, let's see here, we'll start in verse 14. For when Gentiles, now the Gentiles means that they were raised in a heathenistic culture, never had any boundaries or rules towards God, and they found Christ. And he's comparing the Gentiles to the people raised in a Jewish family where they had many laws, 613 laws that ruled everything they did every day. And what they ate, what they wore, how they worshiped, how they had friends, how they had relationships with people. So many rules and laws that he's trying to show them a difference, that just because you have an outside law that you can do the things, it doesn't mean that you're holy. Holy must come from the inside. And that's what he's comparing, was the danger of walking in holiness, using the outward laws to accomplish them to appear holy. For when Gentiles who do not have the law, so there's no outside law telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that, by nature do the things that do the things in the law. So they don't have an outside preacher telling them, but their new nature, the new nature which brought to life their inner man, the new nature is Christ in you. It's completely righteous. It's like a seed in you, and it will tell you the moment you're saved what you should do if you are a Christian, because that's your nature. And the world has worked hard to try to disfigure Christianity. Say, well, you don't need to do that. You don't need to live like that. You're being too harsh. You're being too mean. You're being too holy. And we don't need the world to teach us how to be holy. I had one man tell me, well, if you're going to win sinners, you need to be able to go to the bar and have a beer with them, Alan. Because if you don't, this group will not ever respect you enough to hear you preach the gospel. And it was such foolish understanding that I suspected he just wanted to have the right to drink a beer, and to say, well, I have to drink beer with alcoholics to win them over. Well, Jesus didn't have to partake in sin to win the prostitutes. He didn't have to join them and say, well, let me just show you I can be like you, and then maybe you'll listen to me. No, people respect honesty. And you know, there's a lot of people that I've won to the Lord who drank, and I didn't have to drink with them to prove that I didn't judge them. They understood that. So the moment you're saved, instantly you have a conscience. That conscience is the voice of the new nature. The new nature doesn't have a mouth or a voice, but it speaks to you. And it tells you by instinct, by nature, how to be a believer. The same way every animal, a duck, a chicken, a dog, a cat, by nature when they're born, they know how to be a dog. They know how to be a cat. They know how to be a duck because their nature teaches them. Well, when you got saved, you traded natures. Your nature of sin that taught you how to be a sinner now is a nature of righteousness, and it instantly is telling you how to be a righteous believer. And Paul is saying that the Gentiles who do not, verse 14, who do not have the law, or by nature do the things in the law. So they by nature were doing what the law was commanding the unsaved Jewish people to do. By nature do the things in the law. These, although not having the law, are a law unto themselves. So you have the capacity. Every Christian does. They have the ability, the capacity to, if they just yield it over to the voice of that nature, to live holy. And that means that God also gave us the strength, that strong strength inwardly, to be able to rely on Him to say no to sin. See, it's a choice. Now, we don't want to just live there and always have to say no to sin and sweat it out every day. That's why you have to include also praying in tongues and worshiping. But it's not fair, it's not accurate to say, well, I know I have these problems and I have sin in my life, but, you know, I don't feel strong enough to say no to them. So when I'm strong enough and don't want to do it anymore, then I'll quit. And we've run into some people who say, oh, I like the praying in tongues message, and so I'm going to pray in tongues and worship and live with my girlfriend in sin. And when God gives me the strength to say no, then I'll quit. But until God tells me and gives me the strength to say no, then I'm going to just stay justifying sin. Well, that's a great big red flag, error, confusion. I don't think it's confusion. I think it's just justifying sin. No, you have the power to say no to sin that comes with the new nature the moment you're saved. And so if you struggle and fail, that's different. You fell. That's different than justifying, see. So we want to start with this. I, by my new nature, know what sin is, to a certain level at least. And then I have also the power to say no to sin. If I just listen and yield over to what's being spoken to me by the new nature. That's a conviction that doesn't come from the Holy Spirit. That comes to every person in the new nature. Your new nature is exactly the same quality as my new nature. So it's not going to tell us something differently. Now, the Holy Spirit does convict us. Sometimes He has to use a prophet because we're not listening to our new nature. Sometimes He tells us specifically. One person may say, well, the Lord told me to quit watching television, or the Lord told me to quit drinking Coca-Colas, Well, that's a specific conviction, instruction by the Holy Spirit to a person individually. That's why they don't get to preach to everyone else. Hey, the Lord told me no TV, so you don't get to watch TV. The Lord told me no Coca-Cola, so you don't get to drink Coca-Cola. No, that's a personal conviction that the Holy Spirit gave you. But the new nature you have will tell you the same thing it's telling me in the areas of holiness, which means that we know the moment we're saved, we feel a conviction from our conscience, the new nature, saying that that's not okay. No, that's not who we are. It's actually positive, like we don't do that. That's not what we do. That's the conviction you feel. And if we just yield over to that, then like Paul says, the Gentiles who do not have the law, by nature do the things in the law. These, although not having the law, are a law unto themselves. They don't need an outward law to fulfill it, to be holy, because they're listening and obeying the direction and voice of the new nature that's in them. And they're relying on the strength that God has given to them through the new nature to not give in to the outward desires, the outward flesh. 14 and 15 together now. For when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do the things in the law, these, although not having the law, are a law to themselves, who show the work of the law written in their hearts. So that tells you that the standards of holiness are already written in your hearts, in your new nature, the moment you're saved. Their conscience also bearing witness in between themselves, their thoughts accusing or else excusing them, in the day when God will judge the secrets of man by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. So we can't make excuses and justify our sins and saying, I'm just too weak. God didn't make me strong. I'm just too weak. I don't have strength. God hasn't convicted me yet, so it's okay to keep sinning. See, those are all lame excuses. They don't hold any water. They don't hold any weight. They're just trying to justify. When you hear people talk like that, the moment you're saved, you received a new nature from God, and a new inner man was created in true righteousness and holiness. And now we're supposed to grow up that inner man and make him like a muscular, the strongest man in the neighborhood, that the enemy's afraid of that. And that empowers that outward power to come forward. But until then, while we're putting on the new man, we also have a strength, a might that comes from God directly to you, into you, infusing you with His strength, with the power to say, no, I'm not going to give in to the desires of my outward man. And it doesn't matter if you've had those since your childhood. The moment you're saved, you have that strength. And the more you exercise it and the more you express it, you'll learn how to rely on that strength for your willful decisions instead of your natural willpower. And that's why I say I thank God for my dysfunction, because I've had to learn Christ in me without relying on my natural ability, my natural strength, my natural man, because there wasn't much there. I had to grow in God from God. I had to spend time praying in tongues and developing and growing up that inner man. And you can too. So the hopeful message for you is, you're saved, you have the right to say no, exercise it. You have the strength to say no to sin, exercise it. But don't live there. Also, while you're relying on God's power to say no, then there's been many times in my life in the past where I'm at the decision making of going to do something, and I there's an internal discussion. Just don't open the door. Stay where you are. Don't go do it. Don't take that step. Don't do it. And I've chosen sometimes to say no, and sometimes I yielded over to it. But that was a choice. I didn't have to make that choice. I could have stayed where I was and not stepped forward into a sinful step. I had the power, but I chose not to. See, you and I have the power to say no. That comes from God, not from our own natural willpower. But in that also, I want you to understand, we also need to put on the new man, which is why we spend time praying in tongues and worshiping, and why we spend time fasting is to help to put off the old man. That's not instantaneous. That is an effort that you do every day. Just like someone goes to the gym and exercises every day, and if you want to go work out and make muscle, you go to the gym and look at all the muscle guys, and you go do it for a week, and you wonder, well, I haven't gained any muscle. Well, it's because it takes more than a week. It takes years and years and years of constant exercise and focus, and you can get it. Well, it's the same with the inner man. It takes a lifestyle of praying and worshiping and growing in God, reading the Word, a lifestyle of fasting to walk this out. But the moment you're saved, you have a supernatural willpower, strength, a might that comes from God that was gifted to you, infused you with that strength to be able to walk in holiness today. So I want to encourage you in this series on holiness. Don't give up. If you fail, let it be a struggle. Let it be a failing. Go to God's mercy seat. Repent. Clean yourself with the blood of Christ. Know that He loves you. He's not abandoning you. He's not getting rid of you. But keep pressing in. You're going to make it. You're going to finish this course and walk in all that God has for you. Thank you again for spending time with me. I really appreciate you. I believe in you. God believes in you. Let's keep going. Amen. And I'll see you soon.